Hello, everybody. Josh Neighbors here, Locked On Big 12 podcast. Today it is the 23rd of March, 2022, and we have a Sweet 16 preview coming up for you. First of all, let you guys know today's show is brought to you by BetOnline and BetOnline.net, the best place to get in on the NCAA tournament action. But on this show, three Big 12 teams are in the Sweet 16. We preview all of their matchups and every matchup here in the Sweet 16. I'll give you guys my thoughts on that and more coming up on today's show.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, once again, everybody, welcome into the Locked On Big 12 podcast. My name is Josh Neighbors. I am your host. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at LO Big 12. You guys can follow me at Josh Neighbors _ and also find the show wherever you guys get your podcasts and find us on YouTube as well. I've been distant last week, had the NCAA tournament. I've been calling Richmond baseball games as well, was a little under the weather too. So a whole lot going on, but we're back. We're ready to go for the Sweet 16. Before we get into these matchups, I want to mention the teams that are out now. Texas, TCU, and Baylor. Let's start with Baylor because they were the defending national champions. There will be a new national champion. Just want to mention, I know it didn't go well this season for them, but, this was such a great run that Baylor has had over the last 3 seasons. Scott Drew has done such an awesome job there. Losing Jerome Tang will hurt, but they'll keep this thing rolling at Baylor for sure. And look, this season was also derailed by 2 key injuries. The fact they were a 1 seed was crazy. LJ Cryer out for most of the year. There was some questions about whether, hey, could we see LJ back in the round of 16 in the Elite Eight if they made it that far? Didn't get the answer to that. And obviously Jonathan Tchamwa, they lost as well. So, but there's no excuses. You have 7 men. You got to roll out there with those guys. And I thought the effort they gave was great the entire year. Once again, to get that 1 seed. Carolina was just better. Carolina was just the better team on that day. What a comeback Baylor mounted. And that was a lot of fun. So, just a great run from Baylor and nothing bad to say about that season. I know it's disappointing they didn't make it to the Sweet 16, but I think all things considered, this was a pretty good follow-up to the national championship when you lose 2 guys to injury that are so critical to what you do, right? One of the guys was your leading scorer, who was a part of the national championship team, didn't play a whole lot, but was part of the national championship team. The guy part of the national championship team, your rim running, great co-defensive player of the year in the conference, big man. And you could say what you want, maybe got the award for sympathy, whatever, but this guy's still one of the elite defensive players in the conference. So great run from them. From Texas, this year was a success. Shaka Smart never won an NCAA tournament game. All right. Never did. They ran into a really good Purdue team. All right. That's just kind of the way it went down and they got beat. I think it's a good season for them. I think it's a starting point. I said tops, they're a Sweet 16 team. They handled Virginia Tech pretty easily, especially in that second half. That was a really good showing. I think that's a good indication of where this Texas program is. They are one of the, they're a top 30 or so program right now. That's a great launching point. And so let's see what Chris Beard can do from there. But winning an NCAA tournament game, which Shaka Smart never did, and getting this group of guys who never really meshed to the point they were at, where they were super competitive with Purdue there. They just got, once again, beat by a better team. And I don't think it was a better on this day type thing. I think Purdue's just a better team than Texas is. That's fine. There's no shame in that. So they're in the right spot moving forward. TCU, really disappointing result against Arizona from the standpoint of, I thought Mike Miles got fouled. All right. You can say what you want. I think it was Koloko who was guarding him there. Awesome defense, but there is one point where Koloko's left leg is over the left hip of Mike Miles. There's a picture of this where Mike Miles clearly gets fouled. It's a foul anywhere else. The whistles have been flying in this NCAA tournament. So the idea that Mike Miles did not get fouled, I find to be a little bit ridiculous. Let's be honest about this. Mike Miles did get fouled. They didn't call it, and that's difficult. But I think when you think of, I thought they'd get run off the court, absolutely run off the court by Arizona. I thought Arizona was a better team. I thought they were hotter at this point in time. I like the way they've been playing. TCU's been playing good ball as well. But to me, I thought, that TCU would not have much for Arizona. Man, they gave them the fight of their lives in that game. Ben Matherin was spectacular, had to save them in the end. So, Jamie Dixon did a great job. Can you repeat that? Can you get that done? Can you do that over again? Can you get back to the round of 32 again? That's the question Horned Frog fans want to know. I know TC basketball is not the most popular sport there, but the big key for them is, can they continue the success? Can they make it every other year or every year? Can they make a run to the Sweet 16 one of these years? That there's upward mobility there, but you got to make sure you continue to do it. And that's the one thing I want to see out of TCU. All right, let's preview these Sweet 16 matchups. First, a quick word from our sponsors. If you guys still want to get in, runyourpool.com, you guys can. Your general bracket might be busted, but they've got Sweet 16 brackets. They've got pool squares as well, just like the Super Bowl. They can keep things interesting for you every week at Run Your Pool. So go to runyourpool.com/locked on. And when you guys do, use the promo code locked on as well. And you guys can see all the stuff they've got there. So start your second chance at the Sweet 16 at runyourpool.com/locked on. All right. Today's show is also brought to you by Stat Hero. You guys can go Stat Hero right now. We had Jason Jaramillo on the show last week, and he and I discussed all the things that are available right now at Stat Hero. They've got the pick'em, they got stars against stars, they got the single game picks, they got players, everything you guys could want. It's really daily fantasy the way it was meant to be played. So you guys can sign up free now at stathero.com/locked on. Use the promo code locked on as well, LOCKEDON locked on, and you will receive a 100% deposit match today, which is pretty big time. So you guys can receive a 100% deposit match today at Stat Hero when you guys go and sign up. All right, Sweet 16 time. Not sure about you guys. So all four of my final four are in right now. I have Gonzaga, I've got Arizona, I've got KU, and I have got, who is my final one? UCLA. I've got all four of those teams remaining left vying for a Final Four. So my first couple rounds weren't good. I think on ESPN, my bracket now is somewhere in it's top 50, it's 50%, whatever, top 50% style. But max points, we're still there. And I want to explain to you guys some of my thought process, because some of these matchups we're getting later on are ones that I thought we'd see. But let's go each region. All right. West region. I've got 3 of the 4 left here. No big deal. Number 4 Gonzaga, number 4 Arkansas against number 1 Gonzaga. Right now, the spread in this game is 10 or 9.5. Seen it bounce back and forth with our friends at BetOnline and betonline.net. Gonzaga has had a rough first half against Georgia State and a really rough first half against Memphis. Memphis is an athletic team, and really that's their big feature. Now, so is Arkansas too. They've got some good players like J.D. Note, Jalen Williams. We talked to Rafael Barlow. He seems to think that he is a pro. But this game is very it's very interesting to me. I think that we're going to see a Gonzaga team that is just looking to put their hard hats on now, and it's time to go to work, right? They've got a good backcourt too. You think about guys like Nembhard and Rasir Bolton, former Iowa State Cyclone. Good backcourt, and then Timmy and Chet Holmgren. Love the way Holmgren does a little bit of everything. That's the big thing, is you can't match up with both Timmy and Holmgren. You gotta, you're just not going to have that size. A lot of teams don't, in my opinion, to match up with them. Now the guard play is at times questionable to me for Gonzaga, but I think this matchup is an exciting one. I think Arkansas plus the 9.5 to me, even at 10, I think it's a good play. I really think they cover in this game. I just, I think Gonzaga wins, but I don't think they cover. I think it's just too many points for me. So it's an interesting matchup. It's one where Arkansas, we've seen them, they've been on that grind the last couple games. It was not always pretty against Vermont, 75-71. It's a good Vermont team, though. And the New Mexico State game was an absolute joke. I mean, what an awful basketball game that was between those two teams. So not playing their best ball, but I think they can keep this one close. All right, next, and I'm not doing, but that's the first game that we see on Thursday night. I'm going to go by region though. So this is the second game. This is the Nance. I almost said Nance and Sims. This is the Nance Raftery and Grant Hill group, the crew calling these games. West region, number 3 Texas Tech, number 2 Duke. I was breaking this game down this morning with the guys on Game Time on the West Texas ESPN radio station. And to me, this is the one thing Duke has going for them in this game is that they've got a player like Paulo Banchero who can shoot over this no middle defense. You have to get your spots. You have to hit some tough shots. The guys that we've seen succeed in that kind of setting this year are guys like Oshai Agbaji, Mike Miles. These are players that are finding spots on the floor that can get up those shots with a hand in their face, or at least make maybe the help come over and draw a guy away. Or if they're not going to help in those situations, give yourself enough space, if they're playing a lot of individual defense, enough space to get your jump shot off. All right. And Banchero, I was talking once again, Rafael Barlow last night, an awesome opportunity here to prove what he's got. The other side of this, we've seen teams have success against Duke when they pull Mark Williams, their center, away from the basket. Can Texas Tech do that? I think they've got a player in Bryson Williams that's the perfect fit to do so. So we're looking at which guys are going to be critical. If they can get that Williams versus Williams matchup, right? Bryson Williams versus Mark Williams, that's good shape. And then I'm interested to see how Banchero does. And maybe they put Bryson Williams on Paulo Banchero on the defensive end too. Maybe it's Kevin O'Banner. We'll see. But Williams and Banchero are the guys to watch. I'm going to roll with Texas Tech in this game. That 1 point spread has held firm all week. I'm going to go with Texas Tech. I'll lay the 1 point. I'll take the Red Raiders into the Elite Eight. My opinion on them has not really changed very much, even after a workmanlike effort against Notre Dame. All right, so we've done the West region. Now, the South region. Okay, number 11 Michigan, number 2 Villanova in this game. Was really impressed with the way that Villanova dispatched of Ohio State. Really not too much of an issue there for them in that game. Michigan also, you have to be impressed with the run that the Juwan Howard's group has made. I know a lot is made of what happened earlier in the season, the Wisconsin incident. Like, Juwan Howard's just a straight up good basketball coach. He is a good recruiter. He is good at making sure, his guys are prepared. They've been prepared in the NCAA tournament. They got punched in the mouth in that game against Colorado State. They rallied in a really impressive fashion. So I love the way this team has looked. I'm going to go with Villanova, though, because Jay Wright, tourney time, it's hard to bet against him. There's not really a ton of star power in this game, to be honest with you. A lot of really good players, but not as much star power. And so because it's kind of even on that front, I think they can contain Hunter Dickinson enough, and I think the guard play for Villanova is an equalizer. This game, to me, up next, is a real interesting contest. So, Houston against Arizona. What Houston has done this year is remarkable, considering what they lost. 2 of their best players. They lose Marcus Sasser 12 games into the season. They lost Tremont Mark early into the season. Well, they've had efforts from former Texas Tech Red Raider Kyler Edwards. He has stepped up this season. Fabian White Jr. to them has been a really important player. Josh Carlton, Taze Moore, excuse me. These guys, Jamal Shed. I like Jamal Shed a lot too. That guy's a pretty fearless player. This is a deep team. It's an aggressive team. They beat the hell out of Illinois in their last game. They took them behind the woodshed and whipped their ass. I mean, that was a physical beatdown. That's what Kelvin Sampson teams just do at this point. They were +6 in the rebounding department, but they had 15 offensive rebounds. They crashed the glass real hard in that game. And to me, that was a difference alongside their defense. Nothing was easy for Kofi Cockburn in that game. Nothing comes easy at all. I think they're going to make life once again really difficult, on Koloko and Tubelis in the post. The one thing and this spread's only 1.5, mind you. This is such a talented Arizona group. I mentioned Koloko. I mentioned Tubelis. A guy like Ben Mathurin, you can't deny how good of a player that this kid is. I mean, his game against TCU is one of those where they said, look, saddle up. We need our best player to go out there and give us all that, everything he is. And he gave it for him out there, despite the fact that Kirk Risa was horrible. Dalen Terry and Pella Larson, like Omar Ballo too. This is just a deep team. This is a team that's got a lot of strong players on this team. It's pretty crazy when you consider like the depth of them, 8 or 9 deep. But this is why Houston's a good matchup. It's a good matchup for Houston because they're just as athletic. The one thing is that Arizona's a bit more skilled, but Houston kind of beats you into submission with how difficult and how physical they can play. So that's my big question here is, will the physicality of Houston win out or will the strength of Arizona win out? I have Arizona in my Final Four. I've wavered just a little bit on that right now, but I'm going to stick with that. Houston, despite their incredible effort, I think it's a close one. I think it's a fist fight. And if Arizona wins this, oh boy, they got to feel real good. This could be the game where Arizona shows why they're a national championship contender. Like this is the team from outside you got by TCU, sure, maybe by the grace of God and the referees. But all right, prove us wrong. Show us you still deserve to be here because you're still here right now. Show us you deserve to be here with beating a team like Houston. Not saying they don't once again, but like this is the reaffirmation. Because if Houston takes you out behind the woodshed like they did to Illinois, or even half of that, I mean, it's going to be a long night. That was a 15-point when they pulled away late in that game. So South region, I'll go back to the West region real fast. I'm setting up for Gonzaga and Tech in my South region. Go with Gonzaga into the Final Four. Let me take a quick sip here of the old water. All right, so I've got Gonzaga into my Final Four there. I've got Arizona, classic Josh going pretty chalk. That's why I got killed the first couple rounds, but here I'm showing up late. I'm going to go Villanova versus Arizona. Good Lord. I think there's a chance Villanova wins that game. But if Arizona gets out of Houston, it's like, man, how tough, I don't know. There's a case to be made that Arizona could be drained 2 days later from an absolute war with Houston. We'll see. I think that's a real possibility, but also there's a lot of confidence coming to the other end. Look, I'm not going to stop, my thoughts now. You should evolve, obviously, with your opinions. I'm still going to roll Arizona, but to me, I want to say I could see all 4 teams coming out. I could see all 4 coming out. Yeah, I could see all 4 because Dickinson's a problem. And if they take care of the basketball and they can rebound better than if they can rebound better than Illinois did against Houston, they have a chance of beating Houston. I do like the Arizona matchup for Michigan. If it's Arizona-Michigan, Arizona's through. If it's Arizona-Villanova, I think Arizona's through also. Excuse me. If it's Houston versus Michigan, I think Michigan's got a real good chance to win that game. If it's Villanova versus Houston, who the hell knows? That's an awesome game. Basically any version of this. The South is going to be an absolute banger. San Antonio is going to be great. And so I think that region deserves a lot of our attention. All right, let's get to day 2. But first, quick word from our sponsors on the show. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Built Bar. You guys can go to built.com today. That's built.com to find their extensive line of Built Bars right now. Once again, built.com today. They've got a variety of flavors. I guarantee they're going to have something that you want. They've got mint chocolate. They've got coconut almond. So you guys will find something, I guarantee you, something you like at built.com. Use the promo code LOCK15, LOCKED15, LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com. All right, so I'm going to go Arizona. Hey, look, I think Arizona might win this game by 1. So I would go Arizona money line. All right, hey, to hell with a 1.5. I'm going to go Arizona money line right now on that. It's Arizona minus 125 at BetOnline and betonline.net. I think that actually might be a winning proposition for you. Just forget the points are even there. I'll lay the 5 with Villanova in that situation. I think they'll probably win by 7 to 12. We'll put it in that range. All right, let's get to day 2, East region. So right now, I'm going to keep it my final 4. I've got Arizona in the South. I've got Gonzaga in the West. Let's go to the East. St. Peter's, thank you for playing. Thank you for coming. Thank you for making March great. Shaheen Holloway, um, when I watch him speak, I know everybody's drooling over him right now. Listen to what he's saying, though. Listen to what he's saying. Those insights are unbelievable. He's like, what I put these kids through in practice, he says, the game, that's easy. The game is easy because of how hard I work these kids in practice. Good Lord, that sounds like somebody works his kid hard. I hope he gets that Seton Hall job. And look, they have the tougher guards. They had the tougher guards than Kentucky, man. I mean, Ty and Severe Wheeler, that's a rough night for those boys. And that's all because that defense. And I think the problem for them is with the Drame brothers and then in Defo, they're just not big enough to deal with Zach Edey. We'll see, though. But in Defo's only 6'7". And so we're dealing with somebody like Zach Edey, who's just so much taller than him. That's an equalizer. And Jaden Ivey, at some point, that athleticism is just going to wear out. Wheeler is an interesting case because he's fast, he's quick, but he's not the athlete, not the explosive player that Jaden Ivey is. I think his creativity is going to put them in a good spot. This spread right now is at 12.5. I'm real tempted to take St. Peter's plus the points, but I think the run ends right here. I think Purdue is going to be just a machine in this game. Matt Painter gets one step closer to the Elite 8. But what a story. I mean, St. Peter's is that story. And that defensive effort they gave against Murray State was amazing. The one problem here is this is a different challenge, man. This is a totally different challenge. You're going to have to – now, they scored with Kentucky a little bit. They did score in that game. But this is like – I mean, Purdue is – they chucked the defense out the window. They did not care about defense. All right, this is my favorite game of round number 2. This one's number 1. Houston is number 2. The Houston-Arizona game. Number 3 is the Providence-KU game, which we'll get to here in a second. UNC versus UCLA. 2 beautiful logos, 2 beautiful jerseys sharing the screen. The Bruins are a 2.5-point favorite. My final 4 pick, I'm rolling with that. Jaime Jaquez is right now, let's see. Right now, I think there is questions about whether he is going to play or not. No update yet. He's been dealing with those ankle injuries. Had both taped up a few weeks ago. It looks like Juzang's good to go. It looks like Tiger Campbell's, he's all good. Jules Bernard. The big question is, in the paint, can you deal with Cody Riley, or can you deal with Armando Bacot? Can Cody Riley do that? I think this is a fascinating game. But Jaquez is so interesting because he has been this year what Juzang was last year for UCLA. That's kind of the way I've seen his game right now. So they might have to flip that one. I think Jaquez will play. I think Juzang's going to have to be that guy. This is another compelling back and forth contest. I'm going to ride UCLA here. I'm going to go money line minus 140 on this one. Play the 2.5 short for the point spread. We're picking the games here, but in the East region, I think it's going to be UCLA and Purdue. And look, UCLA better have a healthy Jaime Jaquez. Or I think at this point in time, I'm going to say Purdue wins that game. I know it's kind of flipping on my pick. I got UCLA going all the way to the Final Four, but I think I have to say that at this point, if we're not seeing a healthy Jaime Jaquez, Purdue is just on a roll right now. And the defense, the one thing that UCLA has got in their back pocket is that they can play at any pace. They can play fast. They can play slow. They just don't have an interior presence. And I wonder how that affects them in these next 2 games. I would bet that it costs them at some point in the next 2. So maybe an error on my part picking them to go this far to make it all the way. But I thought they played Baylor in this game. I thought they beat Baylor. And then they have to deal with one big one time. I'm not sure they're getting the whole weekend full of bigs and it goes well. The good news, a great coach in Mick Cronin. So I'm really excited. I mean, how are you not fired up for North Carolina and UCLA in a Sweet 16? Good Lord. Sign me up, everybody. Sign me up. So right now, if I had to pick a team out of this region, my pick in the original bracket was UCLA. I had to pick now. I would go with Purdue. I think with the way they're playing, I have to. All right, Midwest region. There are two Big 12 teams in this Midwest region. Providence versus Kansas. What a game this should be. Providence, man, they are so well coached. Right now, the spread in this game is 7.5 points. And so we'll see if that spread moves. I think it was 4. That might have moved. I'm actually might be thinking about the Richmond game. Providence beat the hell out of Richmond. Creighton gave their best shot, even without their big man, to KU, and Remy Martin helped deal with that. They're going to need Oshai to step up now. The one thing I'll notice about Providence, and we saw the Naismith Coach of the Year finalist, Ed Cooley's on there, and boy, does he deserve it. I mean, what a fantastic job he has done, because when you watch this Providence team, nobody really jumps off the page. They are definitely a collective. It is a group effort. KU in Chicago, though, I think the crowd for them is going to be I think it's one, let me see. This one is in Chicago, right? Midwest region. Yeah, it's going to be in Chicago. So the crowd for them is definitely going to be one that's going to be a pro Kansas crowd, especially I don't think PC is that big of a school either. Do you have a good buddy who's a PC fan, but not a massive school. So it's going to be a pro Kansas environment for this one, but not a lot of stars. You think about Nate Watson for them. I like Al Durham a lot. He's a good player, not a very good 3-point shooter, but he's a really good player, tough player. With Bynum and Noah Horchler as well. Their sniper from 3. It's also a really good defensive team. They're 27-5 this year, and 14th in the Big East. The thing was for them, the advanced metrics don't like them a whole lot because of the fact that they win games pretty close. This year they scored 71.8 points per game. They gave up 62, so a differential of just 6 points for them all season, and they played a lot of close basketball games. The one that was not close, their absolute blowout win over the Richmond Spiders, which was a great performance from them from pillar to post. They were red hot. They could not miss in that game. But when you think about that differential, like I just talked about, KU is a bit higher. They score 78 points a game. They give up 68. So the difference is 10, just to show you where the margins are. Oshai Abaji's got to be better, but I think KU wins this game. I think it's the best performance we see. I think it's a fist fight most of the way through. I think KU pulls away late. I think free throws could play in this game, so I'll take Providence plus the 7.5, but I think KU is able to hit a couple shots late, and this thing, ends up like a 6-point game, but it was really a 10-point game, 12-point game. Kind of one of those foul situations there towards the end. All right, also the Midwest region. Hello. Iowa State and Miami. I told you all last week we were going through each team's path to Final Four, and I said, look, I don't know much about Iowa State past that game against Wisconsin. What I do know is this, is that they got a great draw. No coach at LSU. Tyrese Hunter goes crazy, wins that game for them. Game 2, Gabe Kalsher was on fire. They beat Wisconsin, and I know they had a couple guys go out in that game. But it's the way it works, and it's tough for Wisconsin. But because of the style that Wisconsin plays, very much similar to to Iowa State, it's slow pace. So when you limit possessions, both those teams do sometimes in games, what it allows you to do is it's going to keep the game closer when you got two good defensive teams that are limiting possessions the way that those two collectives do. And so that's why it manifested itself like this. Miami's shooting the cover off the ball right now. And they did so again. I mean, they really did take it to Auburn in a pretty impressive way, led by obviously 12th year man, Charlie Moore. So we'll see what Miami's got up their sleeve. But Jim Larinaga, the old Fox, has got his team into the Sweet 16. And look, I got to mention this, guys, too. The Big 12's got 3 teams. That's tied for the most. It's not the most. The ACC also putting 3 teams in. So it was not a great league all year long. But when it's mattered most down the stretch here, the ACC has delivered. Miami had a 18-point win against Auburn. They had to hang on for dear life against USC. We saw Drew Peterson's shot almost go down to knock them out. But Miami, Isaiah Wong, McGusty, obviously a great scorer for them. Charlie Moore has been around since the Vietnam War. it feels like it's not an especially deep team. That's the thing. And Iowa State's not the deepest team either, but I think that the battle is going to be a fun one to watch. These are two pretty even teams right now. Miami is a 2-point favorite. I think there's a good chance Iowa State wins this game, man. If they can lock up the way we've seen them before, and they can get that tough shot making from Brockington and Tyrese Hunter, and we'll see if Gabe Kalscheur, it's a roller coaster ride sometimes with him. But I think Iowa State wins this game. I think Otzelberger gets this one done. I think they set up an all Big 12 Elite Eight. Can you imagine that? Kansas versus Iowa State. It's like, a fun game to watch on a January evening. And that ends up being one of the semifinals, guaranteeing that we get a Big 12 team in the Final Four. I do think this. I think we get one out of the West region. I believe it's Kansas. And so I think we're going to get a Final Four where we're sitting next week of KU. I think we get a Final Four. So Kansas, I think we're also going to get so my Final Four is Gonzaga, KU, UCLA, Arizona. It would set up, right now I'm picking that Purdue is going to beat UCLA. So it'd be Gonzaga and Purdue on one side, Arizona and KU on the other. That's what I'm predicting. My original bracket, once again, UCLA. So I'm not going to claim victory if they do make it. All I will say is that because UCLA can play multiple styles, that's the thing. Now, if Jaime Jaquez is healthy, we're having a different conversation, but he's not. So that's why I'm taking Purdue to win. All right, that will do it for today's show. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. Find me at Josh Neighbors _. Find the show at LO Big 12. You guys can find Locked On Big 12 wherever you get your podcasts. And also make sure you guys subscribe on YouTube as well. We'll see you guys next time.